Sports Card family and Alf, it is Christmas Eve, and I know for a lot of dads, husbands, boyfriends out there, many of you might be scrambling around trying to get Christmas presents today for maybe the girlfriend, the wife, or family members and all that stuff. I can completely relate to that. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. Maybe as you're driving around town, this can be on in the background. Did a mashup collaboration for today's video with Nick over at Sports Card Madness. Make sure to check out his channel, great channel, covering all sorts of different hobby topics and always a good watch. Also, big thanks to today's video sponsor, Pristine Auction. If you use my promo code down below, SCD25, you get $10 off your first auction victory. So make sure to check out the link down below with the promo code. And hey, it might be Christmas time, you might be getting a lot of things, but treat yourself to one more thing here as we get past the holidays. Check out Pristine Auction and my links down below. All right, Frank, spin it up. Onto the video. Please, I'm not paying you to do nothing.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to a very special episode of Sports Card Madness, a bit of a collab episode. It's Sports Card Dad and Sports Card Madness. Got Dustin, I'm Nick. We're going to have some fun with this episode. Dustin and I have very passionate views about the future of breaking in sports cards and how everything is swirling around this gambling toilet. And speaking of that world, we'll also get into R-rated breaking, which they already are by language, but we'll get into the possibility of nude breaks. It's going to be a little bit of a controversial episode. We'll probably get a lot of crap in the comments, but it should be fun. Dustin, what's up, man?
What's up? It's good to be back on with you. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is great. It's too bad LZ had to sit this one out, man. This breaking thing, dude. So I got back into this stuff in like 18, 19. I was buying Celtics cards. I wasn't paying attention. My buddy's a degenerate gambler. He's like, oh man, you got to go check out these breaks. This guy breaks stuff on YouTube. It's so fun. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And obviously we started a channel and a podcast and like dove into this world. I couldn't believe how prevalent breaking was, to the point where like it feels like 80% of the volume of cards printed goes through breaking. And it's astonishing to me. So I figured it'd be cool to kick about like why did this happen? And is it peaking? Is it growing like crazy? Are we going like full Biff Tanner, Back to the Future 2 timeline? Like, what do you think we're doing, man?
Yeah, I'm with you. I got back in around the same time, 2018, but not really hobby YouTube stuff until maybe like mid 2019. I found Jeff Wilson and just popped up on my feed. I was using YouTube to like how to fix stuff. I wasn't watching YouTube back then, to watch shows and things like that. So I was like, wait a second, there's sports card people on YouTube. How does this work? But you're right, though. I ended up finding, whether it was latent sports breaks or some of these big breakers, and I was really surprised how popular it was watching another person open up packs for you, right. And just like the whole idea around that. And I can see where certain breakers are entertaining. They build a following. I understand, the excitement around some of it. For me, though, it's not my cup of tea. Like, I know some people, they'll sit and watch breaks for hours and hours. That's just not me. But I figured out that I am the weirdo in this group, to where, a lot of these breaking channels, they've got 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. They get a lot of views. And a lot of people are interested in the new product breaks to see, I guess it's partly to see who wins, but then also to see like
the voyeurism.
Yeah, there is. I know there's a lot. I've just heard from people that are like, man, these guys are getting killed on these breaks. So I know that there's part of like watching the car wreck that is a lot of the, sadly, I mean, that's really a lot of the viewership is people watching a flawless box that was $8,000 for a briefcase. And they get
cooked.
$500. Yeah, they get absolutely crushed. I think that there's a lot of that. But yeah, to answer your question, it was shocking to see just how big it was and is.
Here's my question for you, because me and LZ are very similar in this regard. Do you enjoy gambling in general? Do you like going to the casino and playing blackjack, roulette, like just games like that, or you're not into that? So
I've been to Vegas probably 4 or 5 times in my life, and I've never spent a dime, not even on a slot machine. So I kind of like watching, I've watched the roulette table where a guy sits down, he's got a bunch of chips, and it's kind of fun to watch. Caesar's Palace brings me back to a memory where I'm watching a guy that's having some luck, has got a bunch of chips, and then magically out of nowhere, there's two girls that sit next to him with cocktails, cheering him on. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, this guy's out of chips, he's gone, but just watching the casino work, just work people. So I do like watching, other people play dice or what, like poker or something like that. Sure. But I've never been a gambler in that way.
It was a loaded question because I want to educate the audience here a little bit. There's this little thing called expected value. Okay. If you open a pack with 2 cards in it, this pack is unopened still, and one of those cards is worth $100. You have 50% odds to get a $100 card, and so therefore the expected value of that pack is $50. Now, if you look at some of the packs you're opening, the expected value could be a penny. Or it's not a penny, but like it could be $1 or $2. And so typically very successful people in life only make bets on things with high expected value. So I'm a gambler, but it's on business and business decisions and relationships and starting a business, right? And
sure.
I bet you are a gambler in other ways in your life and taking risks.
Oh, sure.
And
you
some people
you could even argue buying stocks. I understand
of course.
that. Yeah, of course, you got, retirement accounts are attached to it. You have enough participants in the stock market to kind of keep it going. But the truth is that we're all kind of throwing money in, hoping that these companies do well. Yeah. You're buying individual stocks.
So what I'm trying to say, the casino, there's a reason Caesar's Palace is as large as it is. And,
Yep.
There's a reason Vegas looks like it does. It's not because they're losing money. And it's the same premise here. Like this, for the most part, unless you're a voyeur, right, and you actually find this entertaining, you want to learn about new products, and it's cool, it's like television. We'll get to that in a minute. If you're just doing it to try to get money, you're done. Like that is long term. Yes, you could hit, just like you could land on 27 black, right?
Yeah.
But 80% of the time, the people are getting smoked. And so you have to understand, like, the expected value is not there for you. And if you're going to take your money, it's always better to do something with a better expected value. So I'm like you, I'll go to the casino and I'll take like, $500 or $300, but I'll do things where there's some actual skill involved, like poker. You know what I mean? Blackjack right. To some extent, but I mean, to be fair, man, it's still pretty random. Roulette is completely random. No skill there. There's a little skill with craps. And with breaking, I don't think there's really any skill, right? It's just random.
Right, it's random with an asterisk. We don't have to go down the CT scanning path, but yeah, the belief is that it is a random sample. It's put out into the world, and if you get lucky, then yes, then you get the. I know we're not going to talk about this today, but the CT scanning is almost kind of like you're at the table playing poker and the dealer's already seen all the cards or whatever like this.
It's more like a carnival. So we went to a really awesome carnival last summer, and they hate me, the carnies, because I love to find out what the game is, right? So yeah. It's this big checkerboard, okay, and my 2 kids are with me and they're having fun, and I don't care, right? It's like fun. They've got balloons in each of these, little squares or whatever, and you're guaranteed a prize. Don't worry, you're guaranteed a prize. Like, you're going to walk away with a prize. It's going to be this little stuffed animal, or the medium one or the large one. But you play until you pop a balloon, right? And the fact for, I asked him, how many cards are on this check? I'm not going to bust you or anything like that. I'm like, how many cards with the big prize are on this entire checkerboard? He's like, 2. And we're talking, this board is probably 50 by 20, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you got 2% odds. And even worse, the second you pop a balloon, the game's over and you get the prize that's there, which is very likely a small prize. I equate that to that's your base cards, right? And the 2 big prize cards that are probably buried in the corner, and even Mariano Rivera couldn't get it. That's your chase thing. So it's difficult. It's possible. But it's very difficult and unlikely. And so it makes me think of that, the carny stuff. And they certainly act like carnies too. There's more swearing than a Sunday night HBO show on some of these breaks. And I mean, it's entertaining. It's interesting. I mean, you got Backyard. He jumps in trash cans. I got to give him props for that. For me, I think I'm just like an old man yelling at the clouds sometimes. I'm like, man, that's just weird ass behavior,
Yeah. And how many people are tuning in for the entertainer? Kind of like what you're talking about
Ah,
is,
well, if it's a woman, that's different, right?
yeah, yeah, that's true. And maybe that will expand out. I guess that's part of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I find it funny. Like, so breaking is like toilet paper. It's a commodity. You're all breaking the same product more or less for the same price, more or less. And it's wild when you see like Break Comp on Instagram. I love following
Yeah.
him because you can actually see what Blez is selling it for, what Backyard's selling it for, and they aggregate it up, and it's like, Jesus, there's like 20 to 30% fluctuations in the price of boxes. And I could understand there's reliability and trustworthiness baked into that, but it's a commodity. And so how do you stand out? You got to be obnoxious. Like Backyard did it great. Mama Breaks is a little bit different. She doesn't look like a typical breaker, right? She's different and she stands out. And I think the next level of that, it's crazy. I mean, I've gotten so much crap for this over the last month, but I've found 2 or 3 women that are opening cards topless on OnlyFans and actually making a decent income off of it. One of them I did a reel with on Instagram. She's very open with all her stats and everything, and they're making good money. They're making really good money. And we have the VP of Whatnot on soon, and I point blank asked him about the future, but I hate to break it to everybody, like this gambling stuff this is gambling. It's gone off the rails. It's going to go off the rails even worse. You're going to see like Keno, on the screen while you're breaking cards. And then you're going to see Hooters style, R-rated, but, still tasteful. And then this is my hot take, man. I think OnlyFans will be a top 5 breaking platform within 2 years.
Okay. Well, and I kind of wonder too, and I've never been on an OF, but I wonder if people on there, like almost like, I'm speculating here, is it getting saturated to where maybe they need to figure out, okay, what makes me different? What's different about this account? What differentiates me? And so maybe they are kind of looking at, okay, well, people are opening cards. People are doing these, maybe it's Pokemon, maybe it's sports cards or whatever it is, and just trying to build audience that way.
Well, not just that, Justin, but like if you're smart, like Violet's Cards entered this space, right? So you look around, you're an OnlyFans girl, okay? Your market's men. Okay, simple as that. It's like horny men. It could be old men, young men, whatever. It's men.
It's 98% of our viewers.
Exactly. So if you look at my Instagram stats, I have the very same stats. I have 97% men. Some of my YouTube videos are 100%. Some of them. It's never below like 92. Okay, I'm always above 92 for men. Are you the same? Before I move on to my next point.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah. I've never. I think 96 was like the lowest it's ever been for me.
So. Ever. They look around and all right. Sports cards, that looks like about 100,000 people that are 97% men. They're a little weird. They might be a little lonely, Some of them might be happy and married. We're probably the exceptions. I mean, geez, like 18 to 25-year-olds? I mean, hell yes. Like, they're going to be like, OnlyFans chick, and she's ripping, like, national treasures? This is dope. I'm going to pay 30% more for this break. Again, it's like toilet paper. It's a commodity. It's going to happen, man. Well, it is happening. The bigger question is, me and LZ are like, damn, Nick, do we start this thing? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I have to get my wife's approval. I approached it and she's like, You're
coming out of retirement to do this, and she's like, of all the things that you could have chose to do.
Oh yeah, she gives me crap like that all the time. She's like, you tell people you're retired all the time, and all you are is on podcasts and stuff. So yeah, okay, fair point. But I'm having fun. So it's funny, man. I feel like this whole thing, not to get all like management consulty, but like in 2007, this lovely invention came out, the iPhone, and it's like, ever since that, and the smartphone in general, it's just we all need more dopamine, right? And now we have a means to break cards. Like we have a screen that everybody's got and can do this, and we just want more and more and more. So it's just the gambling isn't enough. You need gambling, swearing, sex, more gambling on the gambling. Like why haven't you bet on somebody getting the Spurs? Like if this guy spins the wheel and he gets Spurs,
right?
Like you can do a 50-50 bet on that.
It's like derivatives trading or something.
Of course.
It's like,
do a derivative trade like that. It's man.
It's,
or just go to straight money.
And I think it was a comment on one of your videos about this subject. There was a pushback comment. I think I have this right. It was your video, but basically the guy was saying, oh, well, we do this as a family. So that wouldn't, like, there's a lot of families, there's parents that are doing
Good
this.
for you. Where you are, there's another 10 people that don't give a crap.
Right. Well, and I guess that in itself is kind of a bit, because I don't know that space. I don't know what the, what does the average breaking customer look like, or what's the story there. We can also get into minors participating in breaks. And
let's talk about that, actually. That's important.
I mean, going back, wasn't it
we have so many problems with boobs on breaks, but let's talk about 14-year-olds blowing all their money, right?
Well, and I think too, if I could be wrong on this, but the Mac Jones 1-of-1 Black Finite that was pulled going back like a year and a half or a couple of years ago, it was a kid that pulled it and sold it immediately for $100,000. And after watching Mac Jones last week with the Jags, he did a good job selling that. He sold it at the top, basically at $100,000. But I remember thinking at the time, like, wait, how old was this kid that got this card? And I am not in that world to know, I guess. I guess my assumption is that it's 18 plus to get involved. Like, to me, that's what I thought this world was.
I think you need a credit card. But that's, my 9-year-old son has a credit card, technically.
Right. I mean, parents that are checking off on it and fine, but it's like, maybe not. Like, I don't know what the story is with this.
Oh, I can predict the future here, man. Some blue state, probably Massachusetts or Vermont or something. Some mom is going to go ape shit because, Jimmy blasted, $20,000 on the credit card. She's going to go to the Globe or the News or whatever. It's going to end up on CNN, and some federal employee on his desk is going to go, really? I have to deal with this sports cards breaking. They're going to do it. And the easiest regulation is you got to be 18. Or I'm totally fine with like a 16-year-old and they have like ID verified parental consent. Like, I had to just fill out a bunch of crap for my business PayPal account. I had to do my face and my ID and all this crazy stuff. They should have that on Whatnot or Fanatics Live or whatever, and just be like, all right, Jimmy, you're 16. Get your parent here. I want to see an ID. I want to scan their face. I want to make sure they exist. Do a background check potentially. Yeah, it costs money and it creates a little friction, but it's going to happen. Like, there will be an age restriction here.
Well, and I think going back to what you were just saying about cell phones, this is a challenge for me. I've got, so my kids, and I've got 4, they're 21, 19. I'm not as worried about them with social media, but I've also got a 12 and a 9-year-old, and my youngest are not allowed to have a cell phone. We kind of trialed that out with my 12-year-old daughter, and I didn't like, a lot of her friends have TikTok and Snapchat and all of these things, and parents are like, that's the norm. She's actually the weirdo that is not allowed to have any of those things.
Oh man, I can measure my daughter's attention span by watching her watch TikTok. It's like half a second. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think though that's just part of society. Like, we're like the strict parent, like the weirdo strict parents that have not allowed her to have it. But I'm sure that the next app for some of those kids is Whatnot, or it's another one of these. It's Fanatics Live, or
my son loves Whatnot. I mean, I'm the opposite. I'm like an anarchist. My kids do anything. He's 9. He had a YouTube channel at 5. Like, I don't care, but he watches Whatnot, but he does video games. Like, me and him have a crazy vintage video game collection. Like, every system.
I didn't know that, but we have to talk about that offline. I've got graded games going back.
Oh man, we actually play them, dude. It's crazy. So he's got every system, like since the beginning of time up to the PS5, in this house on some level. Could be the basement, could be the attic, and all right, is it an NES day? We'll go up to the attic. We'll play like the original Zelda, and it's like on the actual console with an HDMI cable. It's so awesome. But so he watches it, and badass. he gets hooked in too, man. He's like, oh, dad, this. Mario Brothers 2 is only $2. It's a $2. It's like, wow.
I love the fact that my 9-year-old also, he plays just as much original NES as he does like the new Mario game on Switch. Which
hell yeah, dude!
Which is amazing when you think about it, because it's such a basic game in comparison. But
what he plays the most? So he's on VR, like the Oculus. He lives on there. He's like a moderator for. This guy has like Gorilla Tag. The CEO. I had to email the CEO and be like, "You realize you have a moderator that's 9. He's 10 now." And he's just like, oh god, that sounds about right. So he plays that, but the thing he plays the most is my Pac-Man arcade machine in the attic. He always goes back to that. That's crazy. Cool. So, but he's on Whatnot, like watching like that and getting into it. And the other thing, like, here's the other evolution I see. It's like this breaking is all about money, right? Like you're gambling to get a card that you're going to sell. I guess maybe 10%.
But they'll sell it like it's to like collectors this and collectors that, and we're all collectors and collectors. This is not collecting.
10% maybe. You know, I'm a Jets collector. I'll enter a Jets break because I can't afford national, whatever. But
sure, small percentage. Maybe if I want New Orleans Saints cards out of the National Treasures set, I buy in for $40 or whatever. That makes sense to me. But to your point, the vast majority are chasing after the chase. Like they're not chasing after the Saints.
So if they're doing that, how much longer until they just say, screw the cards? Let's just fill the packs with $100 bills. Like honestly, they have done this before. They've put money in cards, so the breaker could do a repack or something where there's actual cash in it. You spin the wheel and screw it, man. You just get $100. Here you go. I Venmo you $100.
That's actually interesting where like, hey, one of these repacks has 5,000 cash in it along with the cards.
And you know what, dude? All these people, all these collectors, they're going after that. The repack with the 5Gs in it, man.
Now, what do you say? What's your response? Because a lot of the pushback will be like, well, hey, look, if you want this thing to grow, if you want a 10X, if you want a 5X or whatever, then we need this as part of our overall ecosystem. This piece. I'm of the opinion of kind of like, I'm more okay with slow and steady marathon growth, like, 2X, 3X over time, than it being. Now, look, I don't think breaking should just go away, but have some controls, have some type of controls around it to where it's not so, it feels like underground shifty, like all the stuff you see on social media. And it's just like, there's so many players in the space that probably shouldn't be here, based on how they operate.
Yeah. If it was in 1985, like what would they be doing? It's I always think about that. All right.
If you're Michael Rubin Fanatics, you're running a big, huge, humongous company and like, obviously these things matter. Like you can't have, these sorts of risks. You can't have shady characters really, like it, not in the long run. If you're really serious about it, I don't know. I just feel like the average dad is going to go on Whatnot and look at how we open cards and be like, no, find a different hobby. Like this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
All right, here's my thing. So first of all, I've run analysis. That 10X number is BS, complete BS. I think it can double. I can't remember if it was double in the next 10 years or double in the next 5. It's a good CAGR. For those in the audience that don't know that, that's a compound annual growth rate. So, your investments grow 5 to 12% a year or something like that. And then they grow again on that 5 to 12% a year. Therefore, it's compounded. So if you look at the CAGR for sports cards, it's actually double digits. It's like over 10%, which is better than the stock market traditionally. I think the average is 8 over the last 50 years. So if you look at the CAGR, it's pretty good. 10X is complete BS. Now, 10X the landfills, 10X the printing, 100%. That's happening. But 10Xing the actual monetary value of the hobby is incorrect. Here's my thing, man. I used to make a living predicting markets. I would tell a CEO, it's going to go this way and you need to go that way. And if I got it wrong, I wouldn't get their business again. I wouldn't get another project for a couple $1,000,000. So I had to always get that right. I'm telling you right now, I actually can't predict this. It's so binary. One of two things. I have narrowed it down to 2 scenarios though. Scenario 1, breaking dies a slow death as modern cards lose value. It happens over the course of the next 5 years. It weeds out. Currently, if you look at, there's 100 breakers right now. 80 of them are out of business. They're in sneakers or art or whatever. They have different jobs in 5 years. And the 20% that make it are, the backyards and, pull wax and just like the big ones. And just modern cards just lose value steadily, like over the next 5 years. And there'll be a little bit of a resurrection in collecting, and you'll see a lot of like Tops Now type focus. In that time frame, Fanatics will IPO, and they will probably divest Tops, and then things will tank even more because there'll be less printing. It'll be a weird time. That's path number 1, okay? And I am 50-50. I don't know which path is going to happen. Path number 2, you get in that DeLorean. Whoops. Biff Tanner got in there with the almanac. Oh, crap. Yeah. We are in Pleasure Palace, Biff Tanner timeline. Like, it's gambling, sex, nudity, swearing, kids gambling. And yeah, this thing rips. This thing rips. It follows the growth curve of the gambling apps and everything like that. And dude, this is very rare. I can't call it. I have no idea which way it's going to be.
Well, and kind of to your point, it's not as if this is just kind of a little microcosm of a larger societal thing where, look, the leagues are all in on sports betting,
Of
and
course they are. It's good, sweet money, man.
it's a lot of money. Yeah. And so this is kind of an extension of sports betting. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of in the same kind of general, to me anyway, in my opinion, it's just kind of in the same world of gambling. But yeah, it's all becoming more acceptable. So
Yeah.
the odds that someone's going to come in and be like, oh, okay, wait, everyone stop doing this. Stop. There's going to be heavy regulation. That's not, I just don't see that really happening at all. But I think little stuff like an age requirement,
That's easy.
yeah,
Easy, low hanging fruit.
little stuff like that. Sure.
I mean, the sports companies, I think they've peaked as well. I mean, you look at all these deals. There was streaming services. And the streaming services, man, they're having a tough time. Their churn is nuts. Like you could get Peacock with like a 50% churn in 3 months. That's who's bankrolling these sports leagues, which are then Of course, they want to get into gambling. It's like it's the only way. It's the only way to get money out of society.
Yeah, the low hanging fruit, but
it's cool. And I don't want to sound like a wet nurse. Like I do. Like I'll go to a Celtics game and I'll bet on like how many threes Jason Tatum's going to hit or something like that. That's fine, man. Like I'm a capitalist. I'm totally down with gambling.
Sure.
I'm just talking about it like just directionally on sports cards.
Yeah. And even like sports betting's got the 1-800-GAMBLING number. Hey, call if you have an issue, call this. I honestly, I think that Break should have a similar thing. You're on Whatnot, and maybe there's a little scroller at the bottom that says.
Well, we have it. We're going to have it on this very episode, Dustin, because one of our sponsors is DraftKings, and so
well, there you go.
They have their Pick Six app. If you use code Madness6, you get $50, and you spend $5, you get 50. And right now, you're going to see that message right under the video.
Well, there you go, man.
I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. Like I use DraftKings and it's fun. Like I bet on the Super Bowl with my son and we have a good time. I'm just talking about more like, Jimmy blowing all his money or like the college accounts getting raided for these like bigger problems than like, here's a couple $100 to make my day more exciting. Like that's awesome. Like do that all day long.
Yeah, exactly. The concern is over the extremes. It's not over it's not over. I did, bet $2. I entered the daily fantasy football league this Sunday at $5. Right. I've done that in the past. That's fun. So
back in high school, we used to do. I mean, I was at a flea market, and man, when I worked at the flea market, I learned a lot about life in the '90s. And they had these cards, and on these cards, you could. I think it was you pick 4 teams, and it's 10-1 odds. And this guy Tiny, who was not tiny at all, he would just go around, and he had like a ring, right? You'd pay him. You pay him whatever you want to pay him, $10 or. I think I paid like $1. I was like 15. I wanted to win $10, or I paid $5. I wanted to win 50. And I think you picked with the spreads. So the spreads were baked in and you picked them. And that's how we did it. There was no technology otherwise. But that was fun. I took like an hour's labor and I used it on a like a card, and I gambled, and it was interesting. So I don't know. It's funny. It'll be funny to watch this whole space. I mean, the comments are going to be interesting. It's kind of like some of it, a lot of it is like old man yelling at the clouds. Like, I get that. Like, I'm 44, but.
Sure. And I think too, I know we're kind of running a little bit short on time, but there's also just the overall, because of to me, it's excessive breaking or the extent of breaking as a distribution method. Now it kind of manipulates new product pricing. It's like, especially when like Panini's running a reverse Dutch auction and they're starting it out at, $4,000 for a box. So first off,
makes you think that's the price, right?
And then it drops down to, let's say they're going to drop it down to 500. Well, really, that price is going to stop wherever the breakers feel comfortable. It's not going to stop where you and I, if we were going to buy a hobby box, the average individual consumer, it's not going to stop at that price. It's going to stop really where the breakers come in and they're like, all right, hey, at 2,500, we're comfortable with it. We can sell out these spots. So really, like, that's dictating the real price. I mean, the actual prices are being dictated.
Yeah, they have the ability to anchor. That's called anchoring in a negotiation. Yeah. The first person to put out the number is the anchor. And so Panini has anchored this number, $4,000 Dutch auction. That's what it's worth, fellas.
I think it's smart business for Panini. I'm not saying like,
hell yeah, dude.
Smart, if you're the manufacturer, to me, like that's, but if you're kind of looking at it from I guess from our side from a collector side, or just people that want to open boxes or any of that. And look, I'm not trying to say like everyone needs a participation trophy and everyone should get national treasures at $100 a box. I'm not saying that, but to act like, breaking doesn't have an effect on the reason why new product is 5x the cost of what it used to be, or 10x the cost of what it used to be going back years and years. Like that's really the reason why we're having these discussions on new product being expensive. It's not because we have that many more collectors in the space that are buying new product. Like
it does drive up the price for better or worse.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Man, whew, I feel like we could talk for 2 hours about this.
I know that half hour that blew by.
Boom. Well, hopefully everybody enjoys this. I think it was a good, not really a debate, because I feel like we're mostly in agreement here. But debate us in the comments. Let us know. Let us know where old men yelling at the clouds. I love to hear it. Cool, Dustin. Thanks for joining, man. This is a fun little, dual sports card dad, sports card madness. I like it.
Being on with you again.
You got it. All right. Thanks, everyone.